Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie. I think everybody over the age of 25 probably remembers seeing this movie in theaters, and it's probably one of your earliest core memories, especially when it comes to anime and cartoons in general. This movie was released at the peak of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Hype, and while it has a lot of, well, let's just say negative reviews, it certainly leaves a lot to talk about. I actually just did a full review of this movie, which I will link down below, in which I called it the weakest piece of Yu-Gi-Oh! Media ever created. I am not the biggest fan of this movie, but there are a lot of things that are very interesting about the movie. Comparing the English dub to the Japanese sub, there are a lot of scenes that are totally altered in sequence, meaning we see some scenes that happen at totally different points in this movie, which change the flow and pacing dramatically. And there is one massive error in the duel writing that really should have given Seto Kaiba the all-eluding win over a Tem. So in this video, I want to break down the sequence that I'm referring to and hear from all of you as to what happened here when they were writing this duel. For those of you that don't know as well, this movie was funded by 4Kids. 4Kids was the one that wanted a Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie to happen, and while this movie is most likely not canon to the original anime, it was certainly released when Yu-Gi-Oh! Was at its peak, and I think 4Kids probably just saw it as a very good money opportunity. And so the English dub of this movie was released before the Japanese subbed version, which I think is the only time in Yu-Gi-Oh! History the English dub has released before the Japanese subbed version. So pretty interesting and just something to keep in mind. The main duel, of course, is Seto Kaiba versus Yami Yugi. Kaiba is able to seal off the Egyptian god cards thanks to the Pyramid of Light card that he was able to use, and at one point he summons his new movie ace, Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. This monster is awesome, and the effect of Blue Eyes Shining Dragon reads, it gains 300 attack points for each dragon in Kaiba's graveyard. So there are 5 apparently dragons in Kaiba's grave, making its attack go from 3,000 to 4,500. Kaiba then attacks Yugi's Sorcerer of Dark Magic and destroys it, which is a difference of 1,300 points, lowering Yami Yugi's life points to 200. However, what if I told you this is where Seto Kaiba, under accurate rulings, should have won the duel and the movie maybe should have ended? Well, Kaiba actually has 6 dragons in his graveyard at this point in the duel. He only counts 5, which is Rare Metal Dragon, 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. However, he also has Paladin of White Dragon in his graveyard, and Paladin of White Dragon is very clearly a dragon-type monster, meaning Blue Eyes Shining Dragon should have had 4,800 attack points for this attack, which would have wiped out a Tem's life points, winning Kaiba the duel. So what goes wrong here? There are a lot of theories. This has been a very discussed move for about 2 decades now as to what error could have happened, because it's hard for us to imagine that this was genuinely a duel writing error where the duel writing team just totally forgot about the existence of Paladin of White Dragon. The most common explanation is that Paladin of White Dragon was originally supposed to be a warrior type monster and not a dragon type monster. When you think of the term Paladin, the type that you would associate that with is warrior, so I could definitely see how the team may have assumed that Paladin of White Dragon was supposed to be a warrior type. However, in the movie, on the kanji in the Japanese version, it very clearly indicates that Paladin of White Dragon is a dragon type monster. So this is something that maybe was changed when they actually animated the scene, and when they did the duel writing before they actually put maybe the animation sequence to the scene, they assumed that Paladin of White Dragon was going to be a warrior type monster. here. I think this is probably the most likely explanation, but it doesn't change the fact that this duel in Pyramid of Light has one of the worst duel writing errors, I think, in the entire franchise. I mean, Kaiba genuinely had Yugi beat had the rules been accurate here, and had Paladin of White Dragon counted as that 6th dragon type monster. And this would have been a massive win for Seto Kaiba's character. I know a lot of people don't consider Pyramid of Light as a relevant discussion piece when talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, but it would have been insanely impressive for Kaiba to actually defeat Yami Yugi in a legitimate way. The only time he defeated Yami Yugi was when he had to threaten suicide in Duelist Kingdom, and so this would have been a really, really important win for him and for his character, and I think we would view the rivalry between Kaiba and Yugi a little differently had Kaiba actually picked up this win. And it's kind of humorous thinking that the only reason he didn't pick up this win was because of a genuine duel writing error. But of course, Yami Yugi is able to survive the attack. Anubis ends up taking over the duel by force for Kaiba, and then Yami Yugi goes on to get the win. But the Paladin of White Dragon ruling has been one of the biggest errors and most discussed errors talked about when it comes to a duel ruling perspective. And I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are on this. Do you believe that Paladin of White Dragon was originally supposed to be a warrior type monster? Or do you believe that this was something that the duel writing team genuinely missed? Another theory that I've seen is maybe the writing team thought that Paladin of White Dragon was banished and was not actually sent to the graveyard. However, this doesn't really hold much weight because if you watch the actual movie, and I've watched these sequences many times over before making this discussion video, Paladin of White Dragon is obviously sent to the graveyard. It literally tributes itself to special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from the deck in attack position. There is no indication that this card needs to be banished for Blue Eyes White Dragon to be summoned. It just needs to be tributed, which of course is going to send it to the graveyard. This monster is also confirmed to be in the graveyard later in the duel when Anubis activates his effect of Thenan the Great Sphinx, which increases its attack by the attack of all monsters in his graveyard, boosting their attack to 35,000. The attack points of Paladin of White Dragon are included in this calculation, so it's very obvious that this card was in the graveyard and was not banished. So that being said, those are the two big theories as to why this mistake happened. Either way, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest actual duel error mistakes that we have ever gotten in any sort of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel. And I know we've gotten some ruling mistakes before, but this is, in my opinion, one of the biggest, especially because this is a movie, and you'd think that, like, with only 1 or 2 duels in this movie, they would make sure that nothing like this would happen. That's why I think the logical explanation is the duel writing team thought, or maybe was told, that Paladin of White Dragon was going to be a warrior type, and then they just changed it in the middle of production and never went back to edit the dueling structure and ruling. That's my theory on why this mistake happened. But you guys let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on Pyramid of Light as well. It certainly gave us a lot of funny things to discuss, including the mystery of Paladin of White Dragon. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.